Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail for you here on a very hot, very humid day in Boston. This weather just continues day after day after day, week after week. We're a week away from October, and it's 85 degrees, 87% humidity, so that even if you're standing still, when you're in any unair conditioned space, you're going to have sweat running down your body, even if you're not doing anything, because it's 85, 87% humidity. Day after day after day. This is something like the 100th consecutive day where Boston has had tropical humidity higher than 70%, to the point where I forget what it feels like to walk outside and feel refreshed. Instead, you walk outside and feel like you are moving around inside your college's sauna and like you're trying to breathe oxygen through wet cement. But the day goes on and mail comes through, and we got a few things here. One of the things we got was a periodical, The New Yorker, this time with a fashiony type cover. I like the fact that there are no lines, that all of the folds are indicated by a computer. But this issue reminded me how expensive The New Yorker is if you buy it on the newsstand. $9 an issue. That's a lot. And there was a cartoon in here that made me think of a few people on BookTube who will know who they are. It made me kind of crack up. Of course, the problem with cartoons is that you don't know if you're going to be able to find them quickly. Probably not. Probably I won't be able to. But the other thing that was of interest in this issue, there were a few things that were of interest in here. There was a long article. There's a long article on Percival Everett, who's terrific. I've been championing him for a long time. There's also a long article on Joy Williams, whose book we got in the mail just the other day. And both those long articles were really good, really intelligent, really sympathetic. I don't know that they taught me much, but they were really interesting. I'm still looking for the one standout cartoon in this. Yes, here we go. This two menacing alligators. Oh, but they're knitting. Don't let anyone see how much we enjoy knitting. But the most interesting thing for me in this issue was a long article on long COVID. That was kind of interesting. I thought a lot of the advocates, the long COVID advocates, the people who want more attention brought to this aspect of COVID-19, I thought a lot of the experts and advocates that the writer who writes the piece, I thought a lot of the experts and advocates that the writer interviews in the piece were clearly insane, which was kind of, I don't know what I was supposed to take from that. Dhruv Kullar, Khullar, is the author of this piece, which is called "The Damage Done," and is largely about long COVID. And from the piece, I got conflicting impressions. One was a confirmed impression that I've had for over a year now. From a lot of people that I've talked to, I'd love to hear your own stories, if it applies to you, about long COVID, about how people don't ever seem to quite recover. Some people who get COVID-19 are just less than they were before. I'm not talking about the drastic cases that have been noted anecdotally. I don't know how much actual clinical evidence there is for any of this. I'm not talking about the drastic cases where people had strokes or things like that. I'm talking about direct after effects of COVID, so pulmonary, respiratory, where the person gets over COVID-19. They do survive it, but they don't feel like they've ever come back to 100%. And that is interesting. You don't feel that way with the flu or a lot of other viral infections. And this article gave me the impression that I'd had for over a year, which is that all of that is true. There's something definitely happening there. But at the same time, it gave me the impression that a lot of the people that are advocating for greater awareness of this, for greater understanding of this, maybe greater allowance in the workplace for this, maybe a push to understand that this is part of COVID-19. One of the experts in this thing says that COVID-19 should be reclassified as a neurological disease, not a viral disease. So on the one hand, it confirmed my sense that long COVID is real and serious, But on the other hand, everybody that advocates for it in the course of the article is demonstrably wrong, demonstrably a crackpot. So I don't know what the writer of the article was trying to do there. That might be something very clever that they were trying to do. But it was the most interesting thing. I'd love to hear from you. If you or anyone you know is experiencing long COVID and what it's like. I'd love to know if there's a uniformity in symptoms, for instance. The most common description that I have had from people is that they don't ever feel like their lungs are back to full capacity. They don't ever feel like they quite got over that sense of ground glass in the lungs. It eventually went away so that they could go back to walking normally. They could go back to walking to work or going to get groceries or going to the kids' Little League game. But they never felt completely the same. There was a lessening that was very noticeable. I'd be curious to know if that's your own reaction as well. But then we have a couple of packages here, a couple of books in the mail here. We'll see. Has this been every day that we've had mail this week? I can't recall. What is this first one? Okay, this is okay. This comes out in late January, so I don't have to worry about it this year. It's a novel called Last Resort by Andrew Lipstein. And it has a sunset picture, but believe it or not, that seems to be part of the cover design. That schmutz. It seems like this is designed to be that way. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what the finished copy looks like. But what is this? Okay, this is Andrew Lipstein's debut novel. Do we know anything about Andrew Lipstein? Is he 20-something? The acknowledgments are not here yet. Well, maybe we'll find out about him in the course of this thing. If, as you read the news unfolding literary world scandals, the truism, quote, life is stranger than fiction, resonates through you, let this be the challenge. This suspenseful book captures the Byzantine aspects of publishing world machinations in a heightened drama about authorial ambitions and self-sabotage. Okay, all right, so it's going to be autofiction about a struggling young author. Caleb Horowitz. Okay, the main character in Andrew Lipstein's debut novel is Caleb Horowitz. Is 27, and his wildest dreams are about to come true. His manuscript has caught the attention of the literary agent, who offers him fame, fortune, and a taste of the literary life. He can't wait for his book to be shopped around to every editor in New York, except one, Avi Deitch, a college rival and the novel's inspiration. When Avi gets his hands on it, he sees nothing but theft and opportunity. Caleb is forced to make a Faustian bargain, one that tests his theories of success and the limits of obsession and art. While the consequences of his agreement with Avi come into focus, Caleb is falling in love. He moves into a spacious apartment with the witty, soulful Sandra. Could he accept the future before him with newly acquired wealth, a home, and a relationship? Or must he reclaim his name, burn every bridge, confront his own desire, and finally see his writing from the perspective of those locked inside? His journey to find peace in the imbroglio with Avi finally takes the arc of a thriller, promising to hold readers enraptured until the very last page. Okay, so let's talk about this author, shall we? An American novelist. Well, okay. Okay, thanks. His debut, The Last Resort, will be published in... Okay, so he's not an American novelist yet. His debut has not come out yet. He must have written this himself. Be published in January 22nd, 2022, and his second novel will be published in the spring of 2023. Will it indeed? That's what all of the Lipsteins that I've known have referred to as chutzpah. He is also the founder of 0S and 1S, a digital bookstore, and the co-founder of the satirical projects The New Yorker, Neujorker, and Paul Ryan Magazine. And he lives with his wife and son in, say it with me now, Brooklyn. And his son's name is August, because it's going to be all tittery and fun at the day drinking at the playground, when the other cool parents suddenly realize why August is called August. Oh, I guess you and the missus had some fun in August, didn't you? Like the people who name their dog Loki because he's always getting into mischief. Oh, you didn't know? Loki's the Norse god of mischief. People who name their children after an in-joke about the child's conception really ought to rethink it. Okay? Just go with John or Mary and shut the F up. But anyway, this book has advanced blurbs from Nell Zink, who writes, "If there's nothing new under the sun, can anyone be original without lying? Would truth be stranger than fiction if people were honest in real life? This fast-paced simulacrum of a commercial novel is not out to please the critics. I finished it in a day." Well, we'll see if it pleases the critics, won't we? Gary Steingart writes a blurb. I thought he'd given up with blurbs. I thought he wasn't writing blurbs anymore. A brilliant take on what it means to be an artist in a world of endless compromises. Look out, Faust, there's a new sheriff in town. Okay, well, he not only didn't stop writing blurbs, but he's writing them exactly the way they always have been written by him. Okay. A third blurb on this sheet is by Tao Lin, the quote-unquote novelist Tao Lin, credibly accused of rape and gone from the world for a little while. I guess Tao Lin is now back as a literary lion, someone that FSG is going to want to put a blurb on this, some of the authors going to want to solicit a blurb from. Tao Lin, who when he was writing novels, was writing the worst fiction anyone was writing anywhere in the world, and then was credibly accused of sexual assault and rape. But I guess you just have to wait a little while. No matter what you're accused of, you just have to wait a little while. There's no such thing as being too ashamed to show your face in public again. And there's no such thing as ending a career. And who cares? I was about to read Tao Lin's blurb. Who cares what Tao Lin's blurb is? The guy has no talent at all. Oh, God. Oh, there are a lot more blurbs. Oh, my. Okay, are there any blurbs by anybody that I know and like? Teddy Wayne gives it a blurb. Joshua Ferris gives it a blurb. Sam Lipsyte gives it a blurb. And Lionel Shriver, oh good lord. What does Lionel Shriver have to say? Lipstein asks the timely question, does one possess sole title to one's own story? A sharply written, headlong romp. Okay, all right. What about Joshua Ferris? My darling Joshua Ferris. What does he have to say? This book is a strange and beguiling book about the contrivances, connivances, and mysteries of creation, with an especially visceral depiction of male anxiety and an absolutely blistering end. A terrific debut. Okay, well, it's a terrific debut that has a blurb from Tao Lin. That is a little bit of a mixed blessing for me, but it doesn't come out until next year anyway, so I don't have to think about it. Those of you who are only concentrating on one thing, yes. The baby. Yes. You'll notice, several of you have pointed this out, that although she appears to be very relaxed and very sleepy, she is still listening intently to everything around her. She's not fully asleep. That only happens when the door closes on the little book room at night. But she is adorable, isn't she? But we're going to do this next package. We've only got 2 packages today, only 2 book packages, and one of them is for next year, so that doesn't really... Oh no, this is for next year as well. Okay, these are both novels for next year, so I don't need to think about them. But you can at least hear about them. You could think about them for next year. So this is by Renee Branham, and it's called Defenestrate. And there you have a character about ready to defenestrate. Defenestrate, those of you not up on your English vocabulary, means to die by means of falling out a window or being thrown out a window. So is this not a debut novel? Wouldn't that be something? It is. This is another debut novel. The mail today was 2 debut novels. Let's see here. It's a stunning and deeply original debut from a bright new literary voice, tying together family myths, the glittering beauty of Prague, oh, I'm sold, and the famous pratfalls of Buster Keaton. At its core, Defenestrate is about a family's secrets and drama, and what it takes for those bonds to hold strong amid tragedy and mental illness. It's a novel to fall into. Although that could very well be stunning, but I want to point out that is absolutely not deeply original. Okay, it's no harm on a book to say that it's not deeply original. Everything is in the execution. But let's not write checks our butt can't cash, shall we? Marta and her twin brother Nick have always been haunted and fascinated by an ancestral legend that holds that members of their family are doomed to various types of falls. And when their own family falls apart in the wake of a revelation that results in a devastating fight with her Catholic mother, the twins move to Prague, the city in which their falling curse began, where Marta and Nick try to forge a new life for themselves. But their ties to the past and each other prove difficult to disentangle, and when they ultimately return to their Midwestern U.S. home and Nick falls from a window himself, they are forced to confront the truths they've hidden from each other and themselves. Okay, well, but I don't care about your silly upper middle class Connecticut divorce interpersonal truths. I want to know if the curse is real. Is this family doomed to fall out of windows? Through this compelling, exuberant exploration of all the ways there are to fall, from defenestration in 19th century Prague to the daring falls of Marta and Nick's childhood idol Buster Keaton, to falling in love, Defenestrate weaves together fiction and true stories of famous falls and beautiful vignettes as Marta falls deeper and deeper into obsession with the family's curse. Okay, well, the family curse is kind of interesting. So this comes out in January. I don't need to think about it right now, but who is Renee Branham when she's at home? She has an MFA in creative nonfiction from the University of Montana and an MFA in fiction from the Iowa Writers Workshop. She has 2 MFAs, one in fiction and one in nonfiction. Her work has appeared in the Georgia Review, Narrative Magazine, Gettysburg Review, Brevity, Alaska Quarterly Review, The Best American Non-Required Reading, and others. Good Lord. And she's the recipient of a National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship in 2020. Good for her. Wow, that's impressive. She currently lives in Cincinnati, where she is pursuing a PhD in fiction. Okay. I thought for just a minute that it was going to say she currently lives in Cincinnati and is careful only to take first-floor apartments. But she's working on another PhD. She's working on another degree. Good Lord, some people. I tell you. That's incredible. I don't know of any other example that I've read, authors that we get in the mail, where somebody's had 2 MFAs, one in fiction and one in nonfiction. That's pretty impressive. So those are our 2 books, Defenestrate and The Last Resort, both of which are debuts, and both of which are coming out next year. So neither one of them has any likelihood of being on the best debut fiction list for Steve Reads 2021. Lucky for the authors, maybe? Unlucky? We shall see. But that is the mail for today. We have 2 debut novels for next year, and an issue of The New Yorker, which I pointed out the cover price is $8.99, but I do subscribe to The New Yorker, so I didn't pay $8.99 for this issue, but the subscription's not very cheap. But it's worth it. It's very much worth it. I'm sorry that I let The New Yorker lapse. I won't let it happen again. But anyway, that is the mail for today. If there's more mail, you'll be the first to know. Until then, I'm going to sign off. But I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.